we'll have a question answer sessions. So our audience is permitted to ask the questions on these 5 speakers. And we have got about 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, we are saving the council.
We've got about 10 minutes for question answers. Please kindly mention your name and the
Josh Kaczynski, British Humanist Association, and other places as well. Just the thing that struck me, be very quick with this, which is that by naming the, it seems to me that the untouchables as such are just bullied people. I mean, writ large. It is just a question basically of bullying. And I'm concerned slightly that if you had a school situation, you wouldn't keep referring to the bullied as a class of people. They are just suffering this ridiculous, and that's again to use a too soft a term, clearly, racism, discrimination, and so on and so forth. I'm just wondering how one does it in some way by the use of that term. Create a caste, create an acceptance of the caste itself. That's the question.
May I answer that one? Yeah. The word Dalit, it literally means oppressed. Actually, broken is the whole of it's
broken.
Dal is break, yeah, crushed, broken, right? And there had been debate in India and outside, why the word Dalit. It's the Dalits themselves who insist on being called Dalits. There have been a number of names that have been used in the past, which that Gandhi gave them the name Harijan, which they find very insulting and very patronizing. Originally, the word Harijan was used for the offspring of the Devadasi temple prostitutes in India. There have been other names, there's scheduled caste, many names have been used for this. But at the end of the day, the Dalits decided that the word that described them in their totality was that they were broken people, they were crushed people, they were Dalits.
I want to add some.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. In Nigeria, where ours is slightly different, the word Osu is insulting. So that there was somebody that talked about there are around 6 million of them, but they don't want to come out to identify themselves. Just like that in Nigeria. So if you want to do a census in Nigeria and you put Osu, and that people should indicate, they will not indicate. They will not tick. So immediately you mention that word itself, immediately you call somebody Osu, is insulting, is humiliating and all that. And there's this indoctrination. As we are growing up, we are indoctrinated. So that word, that's something it stands for. And you grow up with it. So that's it.
I'm Roger Lepec from French Free Thinkers. I think in the last presentation that there is a recommendation to reserve some quota for Dalits, and maybe in other countries as well. How do you combine these recommendations of quota with the campaign for equality of rights and suppression of castes?
Oh yes, I mean that's well. If you read the constitution of Bangladesh, it's very clearly mentioned that there will be quota system for minorities and other minority groups in Bangladesh. But the problem is most of them don't know that there is a quota system. The untouchables, they don't know that there is a quota system. So it's a question of awareness. No one goes awareing them of that there is this system. So it's not only that you have a very nice, very beautiful constitution, something must be done. I mean, there must be some sort of communication, and this is not done in Bangladesh. So you need organizations, you need NGOs, you need good advocacy so that these people are aware that in the constitution there are rights for quotas for Dalits, for minority communities, and but things basically they are not in place. People are not doing anything. I mean, nowadays you have one or two good, very strong organization NGOs, and they are doing some work, especially in Dhaka, with the sweeping community, sweepers.
Your point about this women as a gateway to preserve the caste system, I think it's very important and powerful argument. If you look at in Western societies, especially the relationship between the blacks and whites, you see the racial discrimination or the racial problem as kind of to an extent overcame through the relationship between the blacks and whites, marriages or whatever. And that actually, looking back, marriage, the untouchables, Dalits marrying upper caste or upper caste marrying. I think Ambedkar also mentioned this point about marriage is a kind of crucial aspect, to break the system or to preserve the system. But one problem that one of the problem that that has been talked about. Now, some of the Dalit boys, who are kind of educated, highly educated, who kind of have first-class job or good jobs, they tend to meet upper caste girls, and then some of them marry. The same thing would not happen. Upper caste and then class boys, they don't marry lower caste, not much. Some definitely happens, but then not much. Now, one of the problems that these Dalits kind of talking about is, okay, now these boys they kind of become educated and they get jobs and they marry upper caste women, and then whatever does, our girls actually losing economic, and then our boys. So I think there is a a peculiar situation here. And on the other hand, one wants to kind of break the system through these marriages, so that Dalits can kind of move and then marry, and so there's a back and forth. But at the same time, Dalits feel that they're kind of losing an important person, because obviously an educated and then economically viable or income generated person is losing the community. So I think there is somewhere that needs to be addressed as well. I think if you have any comments.
Your name?
My name is Sambaya Gundimeda. I'm at SOAS, University of London.
I think this is a classic example of what I said earlier on, that any generalized statement about caste can be contradicted by an equally and opposite statement. Yeah. Now, it's well known that class will override caste when it comes to matter of marriage if you are at a certain level. Then there is a flexibility in your marriage partners. There is a rigidity at a certain level, and there's a flexibility at a certain level. Now, when I talk about intermarriage, I don't restrict it to just any one section. We know that in Maharashtra, for example, a lot of the Dalit young men have got qualified, got very good jobs, and then they married Brahmin young girls, and then they are lost to the community because they don't want to know it anymore. Yeah. So that's not the kind of intermarriage I have in mind. What I have in mind is a society where a woman doesn't have to think that this man who I am going to marry, what kind of caste is he coming from? She has to think what kind of partner he's going to make for her. And we can only do that if the woman has the freedom to marry whom she wants to marry. Now, she cannot have the freedom in the current setup that we've got in India. It's a patriarchal system. It's a 3,500-year-old system. And I'm not saying there have been many brave attempts made, at intercaste marriages, but on the whole, the system remains intact. Marriages are arranged. They are arranged with the property in mind. So it perpetuates itself. Until the woman has the freedom to marry whom she wants to marry, you're going to have this system carrying on. It's as simple as that. I mean, I will just sidetrack a little bit into the untouchability issue. Now, you know that a menstruating woman is also considered untouchable. A Brahmin woman is considered Shudra in the overall society of things. So when we begin to look at these things, you see that there's a close connection between patriarchy, caste, class, gender issue in India. As I said earlier, it's a Pandora's box. You open one and you're opening everything else with it. And until such time you have a very fundamental upturn in the Indian society, it is unlikely that we will get somewhere. Does that sort of satisfy? Or
I just want to add one more comment there. Since I'm in the United States, I've been observing last 40 years the marriage issue between the whites and the blacks. There also the same issue come back because a lot of now young blacks are getting well educated and they want to marry the white girls. The black girls have started to complain about it on the opera show that we are losing our good husbands. Yeah. Now the question is, these boys are prepared, the cost of the society, they're not paying back their loans, but the society struggle to bring them up. Similar situation also is happening with Dalits in India. And I know personally quite a few people over the years that they became IS officers and they felt very great that they married to a Brahmin girl who was a very ordinary girl. Whereas when they ordered the boys married, Brahmin boys married, they married a very highly placed, highly income girl from the Dalits. It's just a reverse proportion. So they go to the another extreme. So this is a very complex issue, and I think it will take some time to resolve and come to the conclusion. Next question, please. Yes, please.
David Pollock from the British Humanist Association. I'd like to know to what extent the Hindu religion, either surreptitiously or openly, still supports the caste system.
Okay. Any other questions?
I would like to ask some questions to Mr. Sam from Japan, as he has highlighted one point, which is the caste system in poor as well as in richer countries. So there is any correlations between the economy of a country and a caste system which exists in the country? That is my question.
Okay.
I would like you to reply to my question. There is the emergence of intermediary castes like Yadavs, Khates, Koiris and all. So what about that, the emergence among these castes has affected the whole dynamics of the caste system in India? Because it was found that more atrocities on the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes were committed by the backwards rather than the upper caste people because of the land relationship. I think you understand what I am saying.
You answer that question? I will pick up his question.
Well, as far as I understand the question, the religion in Japan, for instance, did not establish the system of caste. The system of caste was justified by religion. So we have to bear this in mind. You cannot fight against religion itself. You can fight against religion, be opposed to religion, but you do not address the issue of caste, which is also a social problem. So, well, when we fight for a casteless society, it means that this kind of discrimination should be abolished. And we have to bear in mind that it is not only the government which can act, the government must act, should act, but also there is a pressure of the society which has to implement what is written in the constitution. Because, for instance, for bandit labor in ILO, in the International Labour Organization, every year there is they pass a resolution to abolish. But this is, and the government approve and accept this abolition. And yet the situation is still there. So we have to bear in mind that we have to act on every level, on the personal level, on NGO, labor organization, and the government, and the institutions. So this is a very important, for instance, well, we talk about slavery and the discrimination against the blacks in America. Well, slavery was officially abolished in 1865 in America with the 14th, an amendment to the Constitution, the 14th or 15th, I can't remember, right. But the discrimination didn't end because the situation, the social situation was still there. So we have to bear in mind that this is a very important fight, and we have to also to understand that it was the fight of the people who were discriminated against, and it was also the fight for those who were not discriminated against, but who understood that this situation was too dangerous for the whole society. We are dying of this. not only the people, but we also are dying. Because if you have bandit labor in India, if you have low wages in India, but what about our jobs here in Europe? This is the main problem. For instance, Bangladesh is still a poor country, and now there is not exactly a government in Bangladesh. It is just manager government. Wow, this is a big issue. How can we address this issue? So we have to bear all this in mind. Well, I don't think I've quite answered your question, but we have to debate longer.
I'll answer the question which was raised by brother here.
I also have something to add.
You want to add something to that?
No, to the question.
Yeah. Okay, yes, I want to answer that question first. I think Babu mentioned in his talk that a book called Manu Smriti, or Code of Laws by Manu, was written roughly around 2000 years back. It states very clearly in scriptures that a low caste is not supposed to wear the clean, good clothes. He is supposed to wear the torn clothes, thrown up clothes. His pots should be the broken pots. He should not have anything valuable. The Brahmins has a right to take away everything from him. He can rape his daughter, the woman, and there is no real punishment for him. He can get away with a slap on the hand. He can murder even, but he will not be punished. Now this indoctrination continued for up to independence time officially. Later on, it is done now indirectly. I have got in my files the BJP or RSS documents where they clearly talk about how the untouchables and tribals and Muslims have to be attacked, low caste Muslims, when they go to the public health centers, mostly the Brahmins are the doctors. You give them mentally derailing injections to their children. They won't understand, and that way you can destroy them. You can also destroy their water sources. You can put them into the prostitutions, help them to get into the prostitution, help them to get into the drugs. These kinds of practices are still unofficially promoted. And there is a tremendous machinery that is going on in India underground. And when about a few years back, Mr. Advani, I was in the United States at that time, he came to collect the money. A vested interest group, Akas Brahmins, they collected $33 million. Some of the money came also from England, which became about 100 crore rupees, which is a huge big sum. And in 1992, they destroyed the Babri Masjid. So the money that is generated here going into the name of tax dollars, taxpayer dollars, in the name of religious organization, are collected and attracted. Same thing is happening now also. They have collected sizable amount of money here also, and in America, as the wealth of the Indians, especially high caste Hindus in majority, are collecting money. This is supported that, and system is kept intact so that their supremacy and vested interests are maintained. This is a great idea, and the government of the United States was informed about it, and they started to clamp down on these matters very seriously, where the money is going, and some of the organizations like Vishwa Hindu Parishad, that was boycotted. That was one of the historical facts. Any other questions, please?
I'll just add something to this about the religious component. Yeah, I just wanted to read something quickly for you this is No Longer At Ease by Chinua Achebe. He said, "What is this thing called Osu?" Now, this is the reply. "Our fathers, in their darkness and ignorance, called an innocent man Osu, a thing given to idols." I'll just stop there. You know, for us, in my own culture, there's a direct connection, you know, between it's so connected to religion, because traditionally in my community you can't do anything without having some kind of religious connection or justification, you know, and again, ritual somebody becoming an Osu is a religious process, somebody dedicated to a god and all that. So if we are to tackle it, we have to ask people. Just and I used to tell them, I said, now the spirits, do they exist? They don't. So something dedicated to them is useless. You know, just get up there. And again, there's this fear. If I interact with this person and something happens to me, oh, maybe the gods are angry. Oh, this is a spiritual, supernatural repercussion for this thing I have done. This is the fear that haunts the minds of many people. And if we can't help them get over this fear, it will be difficult to really create, you know, a very a caste-free society in my community. So that's it.
Just very short.
Yeah, very short.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah. You talk about Hinduism, you know, okay, there are many religions, you know, religion does not protect you from untouchability and caste, right? Islam will not protect you, yeah. It's just that in Hinduism, the very concept of caste system and untouchability is hardwired. It has been hardwired into it since 2,000 years or even before that. Now, it's more than that, because the Nazis in Germany, the Nazi philosophers, found, if you like, their holy grail in the Bhagavad Gita, which clearly, yes, you must read a book called Hitler, Buddha, Krishna, published from Vienna, and the Austrians know something about Nazism. If you go on the internet and look it up, you know, you see the reviews on the book. And it's not a well-known fact, but it is true that the Nazis, they found their viewpoint so simple, you know, they found their viewpoint so in line, you know, with classical Hinduism that they adopted that as their philosophy. And many Indians thought that Hitler was no less than a Mahatma, sent here to punish the British for their sins of ruling India. And it is no incident. If you look at the RSS, if you look at their literature, if you look when they have their rallies, right, they are so similar in their setup, in their method of operation, in their ideology, in their philosophy to Nazism. You think that it's just a different time, different place, but it's exactly the same thing. So, and when it was mentioned here that money had been collected from here, from this country, to demolish Babri Masjid in India, there was also consecrated holy bricks that went from here, from Wembley, from Harrow. So fascism isn't something that happens out there. It also happens here in Brent, and it happens on a very massive scale. So please bear that in mind when you think about, you know, inoffensiveness of some religions.
The time is coming for us to have a lunch, so I will just summarize it in short. It was a very enlightening discussion. We learned something, even Africa, which I did not know to that extent. And even though I've been going last 20 years to United Nations, I was only aware of Nigeria and Somalia. He brought the issue that is practically in every African country, this practice is going on. As far as the format I looked at it, what he was suggesting is that it's basically the same format is coming. A taboo, outcast, sufferings if you intermarry, and if you just stay, you carry the filth of the people. That's their survival. That sort of format is being more or less common in all these things. Sam brought the issue of Burakumin people. In spite of all the laws, it is reduced, it is mild, but still existing. And I have seen at earlier stages the Japanese have committed suicides many times in these cases when they could not marry the girl they wanted. There had been many cases that I came across, something like that, which that system also has taken quite a bit of root, which is not completely cleaned out yet, and it will need also some more push to get rid of it. Jamal Iqbal has brought a good aspect of the caste system in Islam, besides the Hindu religion. Azlaf and Ashraf, which are the low class and high class Muslims, are existing in practice, and they don't have the social intercourse. And the poor Muslims have been maintained that way in India, what I observed, in that condition, and only a small segment of the high caste converts who became Muslim, they carried most of the torch and the privileges that. So that has been now is being brought into the politics at this stage, and the BSP party's development in UP was one of the reasons why the low class Muslims have helped the Dalit and the other minorities to forge ahead to get a political power. So these are one of some of the examples which I observed. Mahanandia brought the issue of that 1300 the years back, 700 years, roughly around 700 years back, the caste system was also existing in the different forms in Sweden, which perhaps none of us are aware of it. That was a very interesting point. And I think that as a civilized society, how they got rid of it from a European point of view is something that all of us can learn about it. And final thing I wanted to say about it is, last 20 years I had the most privilege to represent the issue in the United Nations in the many committees. Perhaps I have the privilege to see maximum amount of UN committees and treaty bodies. And we did some pioneering work in that. What I found is the countries who have got the power and they are becoming a little bit stronger are totally refusing that there is a problem in the country. So one of the ways, it is not that United Nations cannot do, is for the information of Babu, that it can do a tremendous impact if the international community holds these so-called civilized democratic societies boasting about their democracies around the world and beating their drums, even in the United Nations, if they are forced to realize, and which we succeeded just to a small extent, that these will be under scrutiny, under the camera, and United Nations continuously following them, what you are doing to change the system. That's one part of the government's responsibility. The second responsibility lies with the people to revolt against it and ask the government to force them through the political pressure, through the NGOs, and through the mass movement. That's the second side of it. And the third side of it is the international community has to help us in moving in that direction, because India's civil society alone cannot do it. It is the global civil society which has the equally responsibility to deal with. Even if one child is in slavery, it is the child whose life is destroyed, and the international community has equal responsibility to deal with it. Thank you very much.
Fellow speakers and activists, as we break for lunch, I have two announcements to make. One is that we have had limited number of people who had intimated to us that we were participating. So lunch is limited in quantity. We have 55 lunch, even though only 40 people intimated to us, we have ordered 55. If joining the conference and joining us was a late decision and that you had not formally registered, then do check if you would like to eat just on Theobald's Road next door. There are quite a few good eating places there. This is merely a practical issue. The second is the film in the evening. We had announced that it would be the film on Dr. Ambedkar's life. We have tried hard, but we were not able to get hold of a copy of this film. But instead, as I had already announced to you, we would have the pleasure of watching P.K. Mahanandia cycling from India to Sweden. But you came by flight to this conference, right? There is actually a huge strike which will be on later in the evening today. So there is also an effort to finish early. Original leaders of the Hindu religion in the name of Sankaracharyas. They are purely leaders of one sect of Hinduism. But some of these people have said that Dalits should not be allowed to enter temples. To that extent, present-day Hinduism supports untouchability. A number of temple priests do not perform the rituals that they would otherwise perform for high caste Brahmins. To that extent, it is supported. The BJP, when it has come to power, not in secret documents of the RSS alone, but the BJP, when it came to power, has set up statues for the great Manu, the saint Manu, God Manu, Lord Manu, who is the saint for discrimination for the whole world to adopt. And they have erected his statues in celebration of his ideas. The Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, which is the second richest temple religious body in the world after the Vatican, has said that instead of Dalits coming to the sacred temple, they would bring replicas of the idols of the temple to the Dalit homes so that they don't have to pollute. To that extent it exists. In some governments, renegade ministers, in defiance of constitution and civilization, have said that the government would build temples for the Dalits so that they may pray. To that extent, the government supports it. So this is just to supplement the answers that have been given. We will meet in a very short while, specifically to say that we will also address the important question Roger raised about how do we reconcile the demand for reservations, positive discrimination, and the need for equality. Of course, there are questions about whether equal rights are for non-equals and whether discrimination positive is meant to create equals from when these rights would be applicable. But that is a question that in the absence of Vikas Gora, we will be dealing with Gurinder Azad. I also want to tell you just one thing. Valjibhai Patel would have been with us. The reports of his tremendously important work, copies are available there.